All right, this is a big week. This is a week that we have been waiting on for months. This sentencing was supposed to take place in November. It was supposed to take place in January.
That's right.
It has been continued and continued, and now the day of justice has finally come.
That's right.
For the Rankin County Goon Squad. It's an important day, not only in Mississippi, but this is an important day for accountability.
That's right.
For police brutality all throughout America. Police officers are watching this sentencing. They're watching the sentences that the Honorable Judge Lee will give out tomorrow. And they're watching to see whether law enforcement in Mississippi and law enforcement in America will be held sufficiently accountable for their acts of torture and brutality. On behalf of the victims of these horrific crimes, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, as their attorneys, we are here to say that we are here advocating and seeking and desiring the maximum sentence for all 6 Rankin County Goon Squad defendants.
Right.
Well, this stuff never ceases to amaze me. You know, so now we have the Goon Squad down in Mississippi. And we know that Mississippi is one of the racist states in America. You know, Mississippi was one of the was brutal. I'm talking about the blood is just streaming like a river down the streets and in those dirt roads of our ancestors as they worked tirelessly day in and day out for hundreds of years in those cotton fields. I mean, Mississippi has a long, rich, horrible history when it comes to our people. And it's still going on now for guys like Michael Coley, Jenkins, and Eddie Terrell Parker. You know, what they went through sometime in January 2023 when they were tortured and sexually assaulted by these 6 officers whom they called the Goon Squad. They ran up, they came in the house because neighbors called because they said that these 2 black men was with this white woman. So they came to the home in the suburbs of Jackson, Mississippi and wreaked havoc on these black men. Tased them, tortured them for hours, and then tried to cover it up. So they, as you see, when I first started the video, you saw Malik Zulu Shabazz speaking days before the sentences was rendered down by the Goon Squad. But let's check out Malik Zulu Shabazz some months ago when he was talking about not just what happened to Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Parker, but also all the other cases that the Goon Squad has been involved in the treachery and tyranny and the horror that they've been causing still today in 2023-24, the racism that WS is still perpetuating on our people in America. Let's check out Malik Zulu Shabazz. Check this out.
Who was the mother of Damian Cameron, attorney Trent Walker, and myself. We represent Miss Monica Lee for the death of Damian Cameron, which occurred at the hands of the Rankin County Sheriff's Department and its officers, including Hunter Elwood, the shooter who didn't just shoot Michael Jenkins in his mouth. He placed the gun inside Michael Jenkins' mouth and held it for an extended period of time, almost up to a minute, before he intentionally shot Michael Jenkins in his mouth, attempting to kill him. Yes, Ms. Lee is correct. If they would not have participated in a cover-up around Damian Cameron's death, Damian Cameron's death is analogous and very similar to George Floyd's death. It was Hunter Elwood and Luke Stickman who put the knees on Damian Cameron's back and on his neck, causing trauma to his neck and causing hemorrhages in both of Damian Cameron's eyes, meaning that the compression on his neck is what what led to asphyxiation and his actual cause of death. But the autopsy mysteriously was ruled undetermined. With all of the evidence that I'm saying and all of the gruesome photos of the neck injuries and the hemorrhages of the eyes bulging out of his head, the autopsy finding was mysteriously undetermined. The autopsy itself is missing certain information, and therefore myself and Black Lawyers for Justice, we have our own forensic pathologist who are coming forth shortly to show you that this was a homicide and that Rankin County and Brian Bailey refused to provide the state medical examiner with information to reach a proper conclusion because they were all protecting the officers from criminal prosecution. Therefore, the autopsy is suspicious. The autopsy and the efforts to have a genuine autopsy, it was covered up by Rankin County. And Brian Bailey has been a part of this. Ms. Lee is correct. If they hadn't been trying to cover up, if Bailey hadn't been trying to justify his officers, no, he didn't just not train them, he has participated in acts of excessive force with his department, according to the courts. When Hunter Elwood shot Pierre Woods in Rankin County on the ground, and he gunned him and he shot him 9 times with his rifle, and the man was no threat to him. Sheriff Bailey was on the scene, and a federal judge ruled that Bailey could not have qualified immunity because he ratified and watched it all go on in person. And so the truth is coming out about the death of Damian Cameron and how they had the knees on his neck like his mother has testified by affidavit to, and they had the knees on his neck that crushed the life out of Damian Cameron, and they did nothing about it. They've lied to us, but we're going to bring that case. That case is coming back to life. Rankin County is infested with white supremacists, Ku Klux Klan. They infiltrated the sheriff's department. Brian Bailey has known about this. Many of these criminals were on duty up until June 1st, only through the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation and U.S. Department of Justice leader Kristen Clark and her Southern District in Mississippi, who've done a great job. Only through their efforts has Brian Bailey, sheriff, trying to come to some remorse. He has not even apologized to the victims. We demand that Brian Bailey step down now. He's a part of a pattern of practice and a culture and a custom of terrorism by his department. We have blacks, whites, rich, poor. They have been beaten by his officers. He's known this all along, and the struggle continues.
So it goes something like this. The Mississippi federal judge handed down the last 2 sentences Thursday in a disturbing brutality case in which 6 white lawmen pleaded guilty to federal civil rights charges for torturing 2 black men last year during a no-warrant house raid. They were part of a self-styled Goon squad, known locally for using violent and aggressive tactics in Rankin County, a suburbs in Jackson, Mississippi. U.S. Judge Tom Lee sentenced a high-ranking former member, Sheriff Deputy Brett McAlpin, to 27 years in federal prison for his part in the January 2023 racially motivated attack on Micheal Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker. The black men were targeted after a neighbor complained about them staying in a white woman's home. It's 2024. Y'all say we're in this racial utopia. Y'all say where's all the black conservatives at? Speaking out against this. Lee called the former officer's actions egregious and despicable and said it justified the top of the range under sentencing guidelines. The 6th member of the squad, Joshua Hartfield, a former policeman in the town of Richmond, got 10 years earlier in the week. Judge Lee sentenced other former members of the Rankin County Sheriff Department, Kristen Detman, to 40 years, the stiffest sentence. Hunter Edwards to 20 years. Daniel Opoki and Lieutenant Jeffrey Middleton to 17.5 years. The officer beat, tortured, and sexually assaulted Jenkins and Parker for hours. Edwards shot Jenkins in the mouth when a mock execution went awry. The officers also planted drugs and guns to try to cover up their actions with false charges. The white lawmen used stun guns and racial slurs and told the victims to go back to their side of the river. Meaning the majority of black city of Jackson, Rankin County to the east, is largely a white community. But this is the stuff that's still going on. So let's check out what happened Thursday when it's let's check out what happened when the sentences was rendered down. The last of the sentences was rendered down, and what the people of Jackson and the families of these people had to say. Check this out.
Well, Troy, as of today, 4 of the 6 involved in those torture crimes have been sentenced, including Updike, the person who turned over the text messages from the Goon Squad group chat, along with Dedmon, who was identified in court today as the ringleader. 4th former Rankin County deputy who pleaded guilty to torturing Eddie Parker and Micheal Jenkins was sentenced to 40 years in prison Wednesday as accounts of the horrific brutality of Goon Squad deputies afflicted the federal courtroom.
Let this be a strict warning to all rogue police officers in the United States of America that you will not get light sentences, that you will not be let off easy.
U.S. District Court Judge Tom Lee imposed the harshest sentence so far on ex-deputy Christian Dedmon, saying he committed the most shocking, brutal, and cruel acts imaginable. Details of the nightmare beatings, torture, and sexual assaults back in January of 2023 unfolded for a second day as the victims came face-to-face with their abusers. For the first time this week, Eddie Parker spoke before the judge, giving his impact statement at Dedmon's hearing.
Christian Dedmon, who Eddie described as the devil, and to see the devil get his due on this day, we just have to say all glory to God.
Despite his relatively young age, Dedmon, while on stand, claimed that he was only able to rise to this position because he participated in this behavior, saying it was encouraged by management.
The only way that Mr. Dedmon was promoted, the only way that he was able to become an investigator at the age of 28 and have authority over other people was because he bought into the culture of violence.
Dedmon was also sentenced in the same proceeding of a crime related to a separate incident in December of 2022. Updike, the 3rd former deputy, received a 17-year prison term Wednesday. At his sentencing, Updike's attorney pointed to Dedmon as the, quote, guy who had this demented sexual perversion. 2 other deputies, Elward and Middleton, learned their fates on Tuesday. Elward, who shot Jenkins in the mouth, was sentenced to 20 years. Middleton was sentenced to 17 and a half.
I've lived in Mississippi 68 years, and I've never seen justice like this.
Melvin Jenkins, the father of one victim, thanked Judge Lee, saying that the sentence was unheard of in the state. The final 2 defendants, Hartfield and McAlpin, are set to be sentenced Thursday. In addition to their federal charges, the 6 defendants also face state charges for which they await sentencing. Now, we have reached out to Rankin County Sheriff Brian Bailey following those statements that were made about management today in court. He says that he plans to release a statement sometime tomorrow. Live in Jackson, Madeline Nolan, 16 WAPT News.
I'll say this. We're not in this racial utopia that you guys think it is. It's not isolated to just these guys. This is a mentality in the mental fabric of America. This is what America was built on, the blood, sweat, and tears and backs of blacks and Native Americans. Many deaths. I'm trying to tell you, there's rivers of blood down in the soil of Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas, Arkansas. So many of those places, Louisville, Tennessee, where our ancestors lay dormant and was tortured for years. And people think that just because these people did this, this is just relegated to them. No, this is in the mental thought process of America. Santa Claus is white. Jesus is white. All the inventors and so-called things, people associated with power, is so-called white. It's the social engineering. The perception of the way whites are conditioned to see you and the way they're conditioned to see themselves. It's in the education system. It's systematically. It's institutional. This is not done by happenstance or by an accident. This is the American way. And it's been the American way since its inception. And I'm glad that there was some form of justice. As you hear some of the people down in Jackson, they're not used to this. They've never seen this kind of justice. Because this stuff has been going on unnoticed. With no cameras for decades. And nobody came to the aid to help these people, these victims in the South. And it's been going on ever since they took the troops out of the South after the Civil War. It's been this way. So I'm not shocked. And just as Malik Zulu Shabazz said, let this be a warning to all police in the United States of America, said Attorney Malik Shabazz, who represents the victims. If you allow deputies and officers under your command to go rogue, to commit crimes, and to abuse persons, you will be held equally as responsible as the shooter. The victims had called for the stiffest of sentences and were in court for the sentencing hearing. Eddie Parker still said he still struggles with the lasting effects of that night. Michael Corey Jenkins said he felt like justice was beginning to be served and that he's desperate to put this behind him. The shooting left Jenkins with a broken jaw and lacerated tongue. They did some imaginable things to me in a statement. They tried to take my manhood from me. He said he felt like a slave. Where you at, Candace Owens? What you got to say about this? Where you at, Paris Denard? What you got to say about this? Brandon Tatum, ABL, where y'all at? But this is the stuff that goes on all the time in America. This is the American way. Name me a time when it hasn't been this way. You said, let's make America great again. Well, this is America. It's been like this for the Black and Native Americans. But I'm going to cut this video short here, man. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. Hit that like button and subscribe to Street Media TV. And remember, I love y'all. Till the next time. Peace.